Hi everyone. So when we read chapter 8, we learned about Michael's involvement in horse racing, how he came second in a race. We also learned about Padder's involvement. He won a race, but he hurt the horse badly by beating her badly during the race. And then at the end of the chapter, Padder, that works with Michael, disappeared. And they thought maybe that they would hear from him at some stage. So this now is chapter 9. It's called Harvest Home. The sun blazed brightly day after day through the late summer, as every man, woman and child old enough to help worked on bringing in the harvest. So they were bringing in the crops. This would be the late summer, kind of like around August time, even September. Even the horses seemed to pick up on the air of excitement and cantered across the fields to see what was going on. Women and youngsters carried cans of milk and thick cuts of bread to the men who worked at saving the hay till the sweat dripped off them. The carts were piled as high as could be with the sweet-smelling hay, the horses straining to pull them. Stooks of wheat were tied ready for thrashing, and oats and barley stored in huge cereal bins. The work continued on long into the summer evenings, till the exhausted workers finally went home at sunset to sleep. So this was the work going on the landlord's farm, mostly, I think. Michael unharnessed and patted the big old farm horses who were now the heroes. They well deserved their tin buckets full of oats and the respect of those who worked with them on the estate. "'Tis a grand harvest," said Brendan. "Better than last year even," agreed Michael. "Lord Henry will be rightly pleased." Brendan nudged Michael and pointed at Marky the donkey, who trotted past them pulling a small cart. "I see they even have Marky working hard. 'Tis about time." So this is the work going on the estate. So all of the people would have been required to work on the landlord's land. That would be part of the agreement, that they have to live in their houses and to have a little bit of land for themselves. Michael chuckled. The donkey's only job in recent years had been to keep the racehorses company. Any of them that got lonely or seemed to be acting up always improved if they had the old grey donkey to share their field or paddock with them. Rolling up their sleeves and pulling on their caps, Michael and Brendan ran to help unload Marky's cart. Michael could remember a time long ago when he was only a small boy, helping his father, bending low to pick up stray blades of wheat scattered on the ground. He could almost see the curly dark head as black as his own, the powerful shoulders, the sweat-soaked shirt clinging to the muscles, and then the laughing voices of his mother and two sisters, Eily and Peggy, as they ran across the fields with a jug of cold water from the well and boiled potatoes wrapped in a cloth and still warm from the pot in their home at Duneen. "Are you all right, Michael?" inquired Brendan, looking anxiously at his friend who had suddenly stopped working. "The sun is blinding me, that's all," said Michael softly, unwilling to banish the childhood memory and the comfort it gave him. Remember, his mother and father are dead from the famine times. Finally, one night, as the sun sank and the fields lay trim and gleaming, the field mouse scurrying to find her lost mate, the corncrake, that's a bird, safe with her young in a small uncut patch, the host of small birds fighting over the feast, it was time for the workers to be rewarded. The kitchen staff had been busy for days, and the whitewashed laundry rooms had been cleaned. Huge trestle tables, these are fold-out tables, were set up for the harvest supper. There were roasted meats and huge bowls of floury potatoes, trays full of griddle cakes and oat biscuits, jugs of thick brown gravy, and boiled carrots and baby cabbages they called sprouts. Michael ate and ate, his stomach so full in the end he felt it would surely burst. Mercy laughed at him as she avoided the glances of the farmers' sons, her eyes twinkling only at him. Outside there were barrels of porter and ale and a punch bowl for the women folk and lemonade for the children. Lord Henry and his wife Martha joined them all, dressed in their finery, while their daughters Rose and Felicia, in matching pink dresses, giggled with excitement as they took in the scene and mingled, that means mixed, ran in and out through the tenants. Felicia spotted Michael and made him shove up on his bench so she could sit beside him. She gabbled on about the hijinks they were having and pointed out her cousins and her Uncle Robert, who was home from India. Gabbled means chatted, talked. The empty coach house is soon filled with the sound of the fiddle and pipes as Dermot and Dinny Callahan, two old bachelors, these are old men who never married, who lived down by the river, began to play. Old men and young men alike twirled the women around the room, dancing to their heart's content. Michael grabbed hold of Mercy, never letting go of her hand for a minute the whole night long. "Isn't it grand?" she laughed, as they danced together, keeping in step with the lively music. After a while, the coach house became too hot and crowded, so like many of the younger folk, they found themselves dancing out under the stars. Mercy uncoiled her thick plait of wavy brown hair, letting it tumble around her shoulders as she waltzed with Michael O'Driscoll, the boy she loved. It was late by the time the Callahans stopped playing, and the company began to break up. That means to go home. Farmers lifted sleepy children onto their shoulders, and mothers wrapped their shawls. Shawls were like big blankets that people wore around their shoulders, around themselves as they made their way back home across the fields. Michael fell onto his bed, muscles aching, heart pounding, the horses quiet below. And that's the end of that. That was chapter 9, and it was called Harvest Home, and it explains how the people had to bring in the landlord's crops, and then at the end of it all, they had a wonderful celebration. So let's just think about that, picture the scene in your mind, and then maybe try to predict what might happen in the next chapter. Perhaps we might be going back to hear about Peggy in America. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for listening.